welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living.
Do you need the microphone?
No, I don't. He has to turn me on. He's turned me on, so I'm good.
Just like the old days.
Just like the old days, yeah. I want to welcome you tonight to the Granada Hills Center for Spiritual Living and to the people on live stream tonight. Welcome, welcome. You're in for a treat tonight. Our call to service is called Lighting the Flames of Faith. Reverend Kathy is lighting the flames for us because she is physically able to do that. So we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from that one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to that truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here tonight. As Kathy lights the first candle, it is for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. The second candle we light for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light the 10th candle for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives and for the space that we are holding for them at this center and in our hearts. And as Reverend Kathy lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love.
I'm thankful, so grateful. I'm one with the Spirit all around me. I'm thankful, so grateful. I trust in God. I surrender. I surrender. I'm one with the Spirit all around me. I surrender. I surrender. I trust in God.
So as I speak in the first person for each one here and online, how grateful I am to be here tonight, just basking in that loving presence of God, knowing that God is love and joy and enlightenment. And I am one with God, one with its love, joy, and enlightenment. So I declare that this evening, this next hour is a perfect and complete idea in the mind of God. As Reverend Dr. Maureen and Reverend Nancy lead us in this wonderful discussion of living the science of mind, that I know that everything that I embody and learn tonight, that I just am living the science of mind, living by these principles to create the life that I desire. And I know right now that I am just feeling that love, joy, and enlightenment in this room right now. And so with deep gratitude for this evening, for everyone here, I release my word to the law of mind as I let it be so, and together we say, and so it is. Welcome, everybody. I have a few announcements. Every Sunday, we have practitioners who are available in our treatment room in the lobby area for a 2-minute tune-up. And if you'd like to contact a practitioner, you can go online to CSLGH.org. Next Wednesday, September 3rd at 7 p.m., we will have another discussion group. So join in on the Science of Mind discussion facilitated by Reverend Dr. Maureen Hoyt and Reverend Nancy Woods. This is an open forum type evening with readings and commentary on science of mind principles. We have a new class starting on Monday, September 9th from 6:30 to 9 p.m., and it's the self-mastery class. It's an 8-week course. Take a journey with Reverend Nancy and Andrea Recht, thank you, licensed practitioner. There will be deep discussion, powerful principles, fun exercises, and real results. The course fee is $235. Please see the flyer in Sparks Hall to sign up or contact Danny, the church administrator, at 818-363-8136. And CSLGH would like to let you know hearing assistant receivers are available for use during the service. If needed, please make a request with somebody in the back of the sanctuary. Thank you. And now we will have Reverend Dr. Moore. Is there anything else? Yes.
I just want a point of order.
Yes.
Tell me the date of Reverend Nancy's class again.
It is September 29th. That's what it says.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday, September 29th, and it's 8 classes. Okay, without further ado, I will give the stage to our masters of ceremony, Reverend Maureen and Reverend Nancy, the star of the show.
Oh, and thank you all for coming, and it's good to be back and join y'all as we take this opportunity to see where we are as far as our spiritual growth and these ideas and understanding is concerned. So we're going to start. You have a excerpt from what's the book? Science, Living the Science of Mind.
Yes.
In this paper. And Mary Jane, would you start off reading? And then just read a chapter and pass it to the next person.
Okay, just reminding everybody to use the microphone so that everybody on the live stream can hear you when you're reading as well. Yes.
And also, if you don't feel like reading, you don't have to.
And then one quick thing, Rev Nancy, it sounds like your microphone might have gone underneath your collar because there's a lot of.
Is it a problem hearing?
Yeah, I hear.
It's clicking on your necklace. Put your
I think
necklace.
it's underneath the collar is what's going on. And you can hear your fabric.
No, it's on top of the collar, but it sounds like a shaker.
No, it's underneath the collar.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you move, the
Mike,
collar
can you
is
come
also-
here? It's underneath the collar part.
Oh, it moved. Okay.
Okay. I don't
See?
know.
You're indispensable.
Yeah. Oh, I see, yeah.
Okay,
It's still,
Now you're good.
I still hear it.
yes,
Go ahead.
thanks. Mary Jane, take it.
This is from Living Science of Mind.
Yes.
Page 167. Our spiritual identity forever expands. In spiritual mind practice, evil is never treated as an entity, but as an operation of thought. The practitioner never deals with evil as though it were big or little, and he or she must be careful not to locate it anywhere in any person or any group of persons. It is easy enough to see that the mentality of a practitioner must be kept free from the belief in evil, which unfortunately obsesses most persons' thoughts much of the time.
Limitation is not a thing of itself. It is a way of belief. Unhappiness is a condition, but it is not something of itself. Every man has an identity in spirit, and this idea will eternally unfold. It will never grow less, but will always be more of itself. What man knows about God, the universal truth, constitutes his real spiritual being, constitutes his personification of the infinite. Therefore, the more completely conscious he is of God, spirit, truth, beauty, the more perfectly will he evolve.
Since the truth is infinite, there is room for eternal expansion, so that man passes from glory to glory, from one plane to another, or as Jesus put it, in my Father's house are many mansions.
The spiritual identity itself remains individual and unique, though forever expanding. We cannot now visualize what the future development may be, but it is inevitable that we shall pass from this state of being into ever-ascending states forever.
It does not seem at all necessary or advisable that we spend much time wondering what is going to happen hereafter, since our evolution will take care of all those things as we come to them. What seems most important is that we be happy, well, and prosperous here and now, and that we maintain our spiritual identity wherever we go and whatever we do.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things I wanted to point out that when in that first paragraph, he uses the term practitioner, and I want to emphasize that all of us are practitioners. It's not talking about somebody particular training or anything. If you're in this philosophy and in this belief system, you're a practitioner of it. Anybody that's trying to practice. So.
What do you think?
I really like this. It's very appropriate for me to be reading this currently, especially the first paragraph, because I realize that it's emphasizing to me what we're reaching, the consciousness that we're reaching for, and the one that we're freeing ourselves from. And when I think about it from that place, calling something evil, I mean, using the term evil, is kind of stepping over into that judgment perception of life, and that there are choices that we make that I think takes us in the direction that we want to go, and some of the choices we make are not taking us. And that's true, I think, of all of us on this path. But the main thing for me is to keep my mind focused on what the consciousness that I want to entertain. And that means seeing the divine presence in every being. And for me to gradually grow into recognizing that more and more. And the more I do it, I think the more I feel like I see that. And that's how I started with this thing.
So going around the room, and pass the microphone when someone is getting ready to speak. What would be your definition of consciousness? Mm-hmm. Just as a point of order for, like you were talking to somebody for the very first time and they hear us use that word indiscriminately. Sometimes we get the science of mind jargon honed to a fare thee well. But then a new person shows up who's never been in a religious science center before. And they sit there and they wonder, well, what does that mean? What does consciousness mean? Starting with Kathy, you might have a better definition because of the length of time you've been in the teaching.
It would be a sum total of my beliefs, everything that I've accumulated in my subjective or objective mind, everything, and then the collective consciousness is a sum total of, or race consciousness that they call it. It's the sum total of all the beliefs of the world. But when I talk about my consciousness or somebody, it's my belief system. And I also think it's the capacity I have to receive, too, when I think about consciousness. If I do a spiritual mind treatment, it's to open my mind to accept something new and better.
Yeah. Consciousness.
I hear a lot of people talking about the consciousness of the planet reaching 51% and supposedly making a mass difference in what's happening on our planet. So I think that myself and everybody else, our belief system in a higher level. I talked to some people that Norman Rockwell covers on all the magazines and through the 50s and 60s seemed to be a much better way of living than some of the things we're getting into today. So I think it's our overall thought process on our lives and how we're living it.
So would it be safe to say that you might romanticize the Norman Rockwell perspective in that?
Probably.
Yes. Now, and I like that you used the word seems to be better than it is today. It's not a case of being better or worse. It's a case of being different today than it was during Norman Rockwell. And I'm not disagreeing with you that it looked like an idyllic experience. All those covers on the magazine, can't remember, Life magazine, periodically, he was showcased. And, yes, I grew up in a town of 5,000 people in the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. Was my life idyllic? Yes, it was, because I didn't know any different. But it seemed to be better then than it is now, if that is my consciousness of receptivity to what's going on around us. Thank you, David.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So I talked to some people about this before, and consciousness, in some level, because we think of like conscious awareness, in a sense, consciousness is our vibrational, it's like our mental vibrational focus. I like to think of the Hawkins scale of consciousness, where John Hawkins worked out the different vibrations of the variety of emotional content. So like all the way down to apathy, being down at the bottom where you like just couldn't care less and you don't want to do anything, up through the level of Christ consciousness he put up at the top. And I guess this goes back to what you were talking about, or what this was talking about, evil. And this is so good because I knew this before, but then with these recent things going on, I catch myself sometimes thinking of certain people as evil because their actions appear like to be cruel. And so this is a good reminder that just because somebody is cruel doesn't mean they're evil. And so it's like we're working in a way of having to allow our consciousness to permit a bigger something. I don't even have the words yet, because we're still working through this evolutionary era of hopefully, like what David's talking about. Some people talk about there's a consciousness ascension, whereas humanity, and to what you're saying, Rev Maureen, because there's so many more people and there's so many people reaching for a higher level of consciousness, meaning looking at the world through a higher frequency, meaning joy or love, or at the very least acceptance or compassion. I do hope, I don't know if that's too weak of a word, but I do believe that it is possible that we do have a breakthrough ascension in consciousness in humanity rising up, because there's so many of us who are now feeling like, hey, wait a minute, whatever's going on here, it doesn't feel right. And so I kind of grapple with this whole idea of trying to not let consciousness, my consciousness, believe that evil has power.
So, okay, how about looking at it from this perspective? You talk about high consciousness as opposed to what?
That's the vibrational frequency. So if somebody is in a
No, as opposed to what?
high, well, because on the scale you would think there's high and there's low, and it's just simply because they're doing it in a numerological, the Hawkins scale
Okay, I'm
is
gonna
on
disagree with you.
I mean, she's talking about the Hawkins scale.
Yes, I understand what she's talking about, but we're talking about consciousness being the sum total of everything we've ever believed to be the truth about ourselves up to this point in time. That's what we're actually talking about. The truth being with a capital T, which is the God essence truth, which to say that someone is a person of high consciousness presumes that there's a possibility of somebody with a low consciousness.
Well,
But wait, 1 second.
I think that there is.
Okay, wait 1 second. Ernest Holmes talks about a more expanded consciousness. That leaves it wide open, that my consciousness today may not be the same as my consciousness tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day. As I progress in my awareness of the God presence within me, my consciousness expands accordingly.
Yes.
So that scale that you're talking about is relegated, isn't it, mostly to the emotional response rather than the spiritual response?
It's not just relegated to the emotional response. It's heavily used in Abraham from specifically a spiritual perspective, but where I'm coming at with it is like, even us, it's the sum total. There's different ways of looking at consciousness. There's the sum total of everything we've ever learned, and there's how are we today. And we've all known this, that we have a sum total of all these amazing things, and then we might be in a really crummy, low consciousness mood. I mean, if I'm feeling, in a sense of self-pity, I'm not going to consider that as a high consciousness vibration. I'm going to sit down and do some inner work to try to raise my own vibration. So, I mean, you may differ in the idea that there's a high consciousness and low consciousness, but you can feel it just walking through the world, that some people are low consciousness. They keep their attitude, in, like what I'm talking about, in a sense of cruelty. So I'm not trying to say evil, but there are many people right now going around with a cruel consciousness. And so you call it high or low, it's not creating an uplifting vibration, let's put it that way, in the consciousness. And so, this is a planet of duality. So I do believe even those of us, we can expand and then we can contract. That's what life is. Even amoebas, they grow and then they retreat. So it's not that anything that we've expanded to was ever lost, but we're not always fulfilling our greatest potential. And that's a fact. You just look around at the world. So, I don't want to say somebody is overall low consciousness, but we all have experienced low consciousness vibrations, and it does affect us in multiple ways. It can affect our health and our well-being, and then the way we interact with other people. And
Okay.
all you got to do is look at the news and
Regina.
see all that.
There's some things you said I agree with. I do agree that I would tie consciousness in when you said, how did you put it? Define what you think it is. I do think it is, part of it is a vibration. And I do think there is higher and lower vibration. And I don't think that's a judgment. I think it's a reflection that everybody is in different places. We all have the divine potential to have a much higher consciousness. We all have that. And I think that's where this notion don't call someone evil comes from. It's like you're not acknowledging that there is a divinity in them, that's capable of a higher consciousness. However, there is evil in the world. There are evil actions. There are things that people think and say that create a great deal of darkness, a great deal of, as you put it, low-level vibration, because everybody is not functioning at the same level of consciousness. And maybe a better word than evil would be something like a lower rate of vibration, a lower consciousness, a very heaviness, and there are people that carry that, all of us sometimes may do that. And other times we may raise our frequency, through meditation, through changing attitudes, through, a new perspective. So I do think it does have to do with the vibration, at least I think it does. I can't say that I know everything about vibration or, everything about consciousness, but some of your explanation, or actually a lot of it, resonated with me on that. And there was something else I was going to say, and now it's kind of getting out of my
If you
head.
remember, we'll come back.
Yeah. There was another word. Frequency, but that word was used, reality. I would say that, your state of consciousness is also your reality. It may not be the reality in the universe. You may be kind of not in alignment with that, but it's your reality at that point in time. People use this word reality, and in some spiritual teachings, the real and the unreal. So, that's a whole nother thing. But that word came into your reality.
Thank you.
Geez, what a question.
Well, it helps to define things a little bit. And it shows that you all have perspective.
Yes.
Yes.
So when you said what do you say consciousness is, for me, when you said that, it was just totally personal. I did not think of race consciousness, mostly because I've just been very busy looking at myself and popping off the front of my heart and the top of my head and just going in there and saying, what in the hell is really in here? For me, consciousness is how aware I am of what's really going on around me. Is what I'm experiencing right here, or am I overloading what's going on right here with past experiences, knee-jerk reactions? And that has been like really hard work for me. And I go about my day with the focus of, what am I doing right here? How is this making me feel? I'm having some responses to this. Are those weird responses that are not helpful? And if that's the case, I can just say, that's just a weird response. How interesting. And that, to me, is consciousness. To look at what's the package here operating in this planet. I like when we use this word evil. I like what Pema Chodron had said about evil, and she said, it's not evil, it's just very unskilled. There's this, are you a skilled being going about your business, being in the world? If you're unskilled, it can get so very unskilled that you get an F- and people say you're evil. I cannot talk about race consciousness because if I start wrapping my head around it, I just become really reactionary. Read too much history.
Okay, consciousness for me is an awareness and a harmonizing of our spiritual energetic blueprint in our human beingness, also in connection with the vast cosmic oneness. My 2
That's
cents.
pretty succinct.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Consciousness, when you first said it, I said, I have no idea. And then I had to think about it for a while. And all I can think of is, the first thing that came to mind was just my awareness. Consciousness is a person's awareness, my awareness of myself and the world around me. And somewhere in there, because it talks in here about the expansion, the more I'm connected to consciousness of God in my life, the more I expand. So I personally don't want to be in the world of effect. I don't want to live there. So my consciousness has to expand to the divine spirit and see the world through the divine spirit in a way, see myself. So, I mean, I could say times I'm not conscious, I'm unconscious, I'm walking asleep, or I'm very judgmental, and all of those things. But I just feel overall consciousness is an awareness of myself in the world.
Yes.
And then it just goes from there.
Yes. So, yes.
It's just kind of bounced off what you were saying. It occurred to me. It occurred to me. This whole thing going back to the word evil. Maybe a better definition of that is just it's a little bit biblical, talking about separation from God, or we could say separation from God consciousness.
Yes.
That maybe that's a more appropriate definition. That if somebody is, quote, acting evil, doing, quote, evil things, or whatever, negative actions, that they're coming from a standpoint of separation from the whole, because if they were conscious that we are all connected, that everything is all connected, all people, all kingdoms of nature, they would not take harmful actions against any part of that whole, because then you harm the whole. So that's something that occurred to me, that maybe that's, if anybody does want to use the word, that may be a better way to define it than how it's often used.
So if there is a sense of separation from God, who left?
I think the consciousness of the person left. And so they're acting in accordance with that. They're acting out of a sense of separation from the whole.
Sense of separation is a better way to articulate that, because we are never separated from God.
Right, but if you don't realize that,
Yeah.
then it's not your reality.
Yes.
And so you're going to act according to what your reality is, that you're a separate, selfish being. Maybe you don't, think of the whole. You don't think you're part of the whole, and you don't realize that if you hurt any part of that whole, it has reverberations everywhere.
So we can only feel that sense of separation in the human experience when we live in the pairs of opposites. Sometimes things have a way of grabbing us by the throat and saying, okay, this is something you're supposed to pay attention to. This particular thing keeps happening in your life over and over and over again. Who's primarily responsible for the thinking that makes it so, as Shakespeare would have said. Not wanting to live in the world of effect, but we are cause to our own effect, okay? We can't get away from that, but if we don't know that we're cause to our own effect, then we keep repeating the same behaviors over and over again. And so Nancy and I, when we talk about, somebody told me that I hated a certain person, and I said, I don't hate anybody, but I abhor and detest their behavior. And, if any of us have had children, we understand, or been around children who are behaving badly, you know, you don't punish you don't tell the child, girl or boy, you're a bad boy or you're a bad girl, because that gets so ingrained in the child's consciousness that they grow up believing they're bad people. So unskilled parenting is another issue that a lot of us had to deal with, maybe in the 50s and the 60s, and maybe even a little bit later than that. But looking at a person's behavior and judging righteous judgment about that person's behavior is not wrong. But it isn't ours to just judge and not do the work on ourselves, because that person is behaving badly as a reflection of who we are. And when we notice it in somebody else, either we have that behavior or we're afraid we might have that behavior. And I work on that constantly. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily extremely judgmental, but when I am judging someone, I have to look at myself first. Thank you very much, Reverend Nancy.
Well, the only thing I would add to that, though, is something else to remember, is that the great sages, whatever you want to call them, the great teachers, Jesus, Buddha, and all them, they actually did point out at times to people that, hey, you know, there's something wrong here. Yes. And they did have a consciousness that was far above that. I mean, Jesus went and turned the tables in the temple
Yes.
because of the greed and everything else.
Yes.
He didn't have that in him
And he
at
burned
that
the
level.
bush, which
That's
was
right.
in season anyway.
But it wasn't because he had that in him. So I think it depends, you know, what you said is true probably for most of us, but then there may be at certain higher levels, well, you know, it.
There's a book out there that says,
you know,
even Jesus had a bad day once in a while.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that what comes up for me when I'm listening to all of y'all describe it is that I think he even says it down here. We talk about infinite intelligence. And where we are in this life, and where all the people that are living life now, we're living in this place where we realize that there is more, and that that things are evolving. So where we were years ago, we may not be there. Our awareness is expanding. Mm-hmm. So if we look from the caveman to where we are now, the progression of thoughts and understanding and awareness is continuing. And the behavior that we had when we were in, when we were in our 20s, I can say that for this room. When we were in our 20s, we look back at it and say, oh my God, I can't believe I would even think that way, even allow myself to experience that. So I think that when we look at evaluating things like evil and all, there is always something more that we are reaching for. And the thing that seemed to resonate with me more than anything is that this concept of love, being in our loving, is that energy that seems to take us through an experience and an understanding of whoever is experiencing life and wherever they are. And I noticed that the more I'm in my loving, the more I'm able to see that loving, that same energy present in others. And so when I evaluate their behavior in such a way as far as saying evil or good or bad or anything, I have to realize that it's coming out of my consciousness. I really believe my consciousness created everything I experienced. So if I'm seeing it, the thought process is still in my consciousness. So that's where, to me, it seems to be the whole emphasis is growing in awareness, so that in my loving and my energy and my understanding, so I can perceive that perfection no matter where it was. And we speak of the teachers of the past. They probably had moments just like we are, where they did not stand 100% in that awareness of the truth of their own being. And as we grow in the truth of our own being, or the love of our own being, we find that we see less of that energy around us. And we are able to pull to us that person and that energy of the person that is in harmony with who and what we are. So to me, it's almost like trying to make sense out of the world as it is. It's like trying to make sense of the caveman and where he was. I mean, it exists, and people exist, and we operate according to what we think is best, and I think everybody is operating where they think is best and highest and awareness. But the thing that shifts it is consciousness like Jesus and Buddha, when they come along and demonstrate the awareness of seeing the divine presence in another being. And to the extent that they did that, they left these nuggets of truth with us. And we are doing the same thing for ourselves and for all those around us. To the extent that I can see that in another person is to the extent that I am going to do it. And to me, this is what he's saying. If I can recognize and identify the evil and the bad to the extent that I make it into something big or small, I'm contributing, because it's like what you resist, persist, what you identify and claim it is. So the whole thrust is, where is my consciousness as far as my loving is concerned? I can't do anything looking over there seeing how bad that man is. All I'm doing is contributing to the fact that it's true, that is in existence. And my identifying it is pouring my energy into it. So it's time for me to turn back around and say, all right, what's your love? Where's your energy? And that's true about me seeing myself, and it's how if it's where I see somebody else. I think that for me, trying to make sense or nonsense out of anything that's in existence is like sitting in mud, spinning your wheels. I just think that the whole thrust is, how can we get more in the loving? How can we do that? And that energy is where I want to pour it. I mean, I think it might be taken that I'm not ready to support some of the things that are going on. But at this point in my life, I don't care. I don't know. The lady said, and she's taken, it's one of those pages where she said, things that we don't care about today. And she said, and the things I don't care about today is, all right, the evil, that if it exists in the world, it exists according to the consciousness that we attribute to it. The loving that exists in the world is also existing according to the energy that I pour into it.
So, Robert Bitzer said in such an articulate way, we don't compromise consciousness even for special occasions. We don't compromise principle even for special occasions. And when you think about it, what is a special occasion? When I was jokingly telling my son on the phone, I said, I'm doing tantrum affirmations today. And he goes, what the heck is that? Well, tantrums, the 2-year-old part of me was stomping her foot saying, I want what I want and I want it now. And sometimes we get to that place of frustration where it appears as though we're compromising consciousness or principle, but the very last line on this page is what I find the most significant, that we maintain our spiritual identity wherever we go and whatever we do. You know, I understand tantrum affirmations. I understand, yes, I understand that moment of spiritual weakness, you know, where I have to heal that sense of separation between me and the higher spirit within me. And I think sometimes, you know, why am I doing this to myself? You know, nobody else can do this better to me than I can to myself. So we can't look for somebody to blame or shame or to feel guilty about being human, since we are spiritual beings having a human experience, or human beings having a spiritual experience. It's wonderful to be in church and to feel holier than thou, but it's a different thing to encounter someone on the freeway who nearly sideswipes me, and I feel at this moment that person should be punished. You know, it's the dichotomy of being a human being. And I would love to be able to say that I maintain my spirituality under any circumstances, anywhere, anyhow. And I can't say that. I can't say that. My consciousness, my awareness of who I am as a spiritual being has expanded exponentially since I came into this world. And I wouldn't change any of my experiences for anything. But I also know that in order for me to move through the rest of my life and to be able to see things from a different perspective, the loving perspective that Reverend Nancy refers to, it's not always easy. But as Les Brown said, you know, if you understand that life is hard, your road will be easy. If you think that your road is easy, life will be hard. The pairs of opposites in the human experience. So we have a choice. We've been given free will and choice. Now, how long do we want to be angry? How long do we want to feel bad? That's the big question. The lows get higher of shorter duration and less frequency as we progress in the more expanded consciousness. You know, I can say honestly, you know, 3 years was a good bit of time to be mad at somebody at one point. 3 weeks, oh yeah, that was pretty good. Now 3 hours is too long to be mad at somebody, because that person has no idea I'm mad at them. They're out there dancing somewhere.
There's some people chafing at the bit.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to mention, which is so great of what Rev Nancy was saying, and this is perfect going back to the evil aspect, is that, okay, the more we focus, so you're talking about these people in the world right now that are doing things that, quote, seem like that might be evil, but we don't want to think about it like that, because our focus on it gives it power. Evil gets power by us believing that evil has power. So that's one of the ideas of the consciousness. But also, as Abraham says, that we can't, focusing on something to figure it out puts us on the vibration of that thing. So if we're going to try to figure out evil, then pretty soon we're going to just be wondering why all people are treating us all crappy, because we're focusing on understanding a thing. So we don't raise the consciousness by trying to figure out what's going on at the lower consciousness. We raise the consciousness by what they're saying, focusing on that divine part in us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Mary Jane.
Yeah, I want to hurry up, say something, because it's going to leave me in a minute if I don't. I feel it fleeting away. What I get from this is that it's not necessary for me to even think about all the stuff that's going on, because my spirit is forever expanding. Mm-hmm. So that just takes me away from the expansion. I mean, no matter what happens, it's always expanding according to this.
Yeah.
So it's forever expanding. It's like a spaceship going on. And I'm like on the outside of the ship doing this stuff, and yet I could get in the ship and expand with it. So to me, thinking of the stuff out there is a waste of time, because the spirit within is expanding, and I'm not with it. You know, I'm out here doing something. So why not get on board and forever expand with spirit? And look at things that way and enjoy the ride. Because it says it doesn't matter what we do, our evolution will take care of those things.
It does say that.
It will take care of those things. So if we were in our 20s thinking those things, now, evolution is taking care of those things for me today because I don't do those things anymore. But I feel like I want to be with that spirit expansion and maybe spend less time wasting my thought process on all this other stuff. That's just the effect. It has nothing to do with my spirit inside expanding.
When we realize that we are the authors of the newness of the universe, that we are the avenue through which the newness of being comes into expression, it does pull you towards that idea of the newness and expanding our greater good individually.
Yeah, it says at the end that we maintain our spiritual identity wherever we go and whatever we do. We stay with it.
Okay, for me, evolution is not passive. It's participatory. And every human avatar on this earth, no matter what season of your life you are in, and what your practice and your state of consciousness is, well, let me assume, for those that have awoken in the expansive continuum, we all contribute to the evolution in different ways. Some people through raising the vibration, praying, meditating. Some people by being intentional and outspoken activists. Some people or running organizations or charities. There has to be different people in different places. If we're all passive, the evolution is not going to be constructive. It's going to be to our demise. So I choose to focus on progressive evolution. That's for sure. But we could produce a positive experience or a not so positive experience. So I think earlier, another thought that I had that when the talk about evil, I've been shifting. I don't even like to use the word evil because once you get to this compassionate space after peeling your own layers, you see everybody's wounded. But then again, everybody behaves differently and projects those wounds differently. That is a reality. It doesn't mean deny it. But what came to me, it is that in relation to these behaviors later, or people that opt for those quote unquote evil behaviors, it's more about seeing their behavior. Are people behaving in a way that is unbecoming or becoming being a divine emanation of the cosmic life force? For those of us that view the world through those eyes, and try to guide our choices by being more intentional, and which goes to your point earlier about do we feed or do we not? By our sheer attention, we are feeding something. We can contribute to shifting that energy in a harmonious way in many ways. Sometimes it's about distance. Sometimes it's about returning back in a different space, and after you've regulated and reflected.
When one time I was teaching a first-year class, and Agnetta's husband had left, or now husband, had left and gone to Colorado for 3 years, and came back and was sitting in class with me in Sparks Hall. And he sat through the whole class without contributing one single thing. But at the very end, he put up his hand and he said, "I'm so glad you people worked on yourselves while I was gone." Now you're all cracking up. The whole class, there was dead silence for about 20 seconds, and then everybody just broke out laughing because he was observing himself and his progress as a person who was contributing to the evolution of himself, but he noticed the difference in all the people that were there from the 3 years that he'd known them before. So I just think it is evolution. It is about constructive evolution. There is something about sacred activism too, that we need to think about when we are observing how things are going sideways. Or, we can observe what's happening without giving it power over us, I think sometimes. And we forget that. We forget that it's all right to observe someone's behavior as errant or as inconsistent with their perfection. But it doesn't mean that we love them any less. Think of every person who behaves badly as a 3-year-old. And the 3-year-old behaves badly, but we don't stop loving them because they behave badly. So our time is just about up here. You have something you wanted to say?
I did. When we speak of expansion and evolution, we're, in terms of evolution of bodies that we're occupying and some sort of nervous system, there's some thoughts now that the nervous system is doing nothing, but our consciousness is occupying it. But we have evolved from lesser creatures. You think about cave people, they did not have the leisure and opportunity to do what we're doing right now. They were just trying to survive, and the evolution for us has become, we could sit around and talk like this, which is pretty amazing to have that much leisure and opportunity. And I think of, there's that thing about lizard brain, like the body that we have. Our brain, is it the limbic system where your temper is, I think? We have that old stuff in us. The same way there's the appendix, it is something from some time in the past. And I also think about my 2 dogs are nuts. They are so they're just mental. They're darling and they're conscious. They're conscious of a lot of stuff, but their limbic system, I think that's the part, just goes wild. They're just cuckoo sometimes. And we have that in us where you want to go and turn the table and have the tantrum. A friend of mine today said, I had an hour pity potty party today and it was so fine. She says, I used lots of Kleenex. I was so dramatic. I had to show my husband how upset I was. And I really appreciate touching on, we just do weird stuff sometimes, just like my dogs do.
Yes. Okay, we need to watch the time.
It's time for us to close, and I would
It goes
like.
so fast.
I know. It's always when it's good. So next week we're going to do this again because the first and the last Wednesday we do this. So we'll bring up another topic. I really appreciate all of you for coming and for contributing some intriguing consciousness.
Yes.
It shows that it's a whole lot of people that are reaching for the greater good of being. And I'm thankful that you exist in my company. So I'd like to do a closing treatment. So I welcome all of you to join us again, and we can move on something else next week as we step into the idea and understanding that we are very grateful to know and to understand that we have the ability to know the truth and have it manifest in us, through us, and as us. And as we recognize that there is a divine presence that is coming into manifestation as each one of us, and not only each one of us, but everybody in our experience, and that which exists is that divine presence manifesting itself, showing itself, and revealing to us the potentiality of being. And as we embrace this idea, embrace the idea that we know and understand that we are the infinite intelligence coming into expression, we can rejoice because we have the ability to know a greater truth and have it manifest. And the truth that we are knowing tonight is not only for ourselves, but all those that are reaching for a greater expression of life. And those that, the experience that happened, some of the things that had happened today, we know that there are souls that have moved on to another way of being. And those souls may not have lived it in a way that we see as a good way, but we release our judgment of it and know that each person is in a divine presence. It is that each person is that divine presence moving on to another way of being. And each and every person that is left, their lives may for a moment be empty of that individual or those individuals, but they have the infinite intelligence within them. And we know that that which is the love of the universe rise up to carry them through that experience with ease, with more ease and grace, with the harmony and love of knowing that we are supported and nurtured by this energy that is surrounding each and every one of us. And as it pours in us, through us, and for us, there is a greater expression of life that's await each and every one of us. And as we know this for ourselves, and we know it that each and every individual has access to it, and it's in this awareness and that we are embracing it in such a way that we know that the love that we have not only radiates to ourselves and the people in this room and those in our family, but it radiates out into society. That love is it's so powerful. It can comfort no matter what. It can lift up no matter what. It can nurture no matter what. And that is the love that we recognize, that is the essence that is flowing forth into vibrational energy that we recognize and embrace, that is in existence. All these truths of the universe, we say thank you. And we join together and allowing it to be a truth that we know is already in manifestation, as we say. And so it is.
Thank you, everybody, for being
Thank
here.
y'all. Please come back. Oh, yes, the love offering.
We get to have air conditioning.